Akeem Joffer wasn't your average prince. Born into the royal family of Zamunda, a fictional African nation known for its wealth and splendor, Akeem had everything a young man could dream of. His life was a tapestry of opulence, woven with threads of gold and silver. From a young age he was groomed to be the next king, learning the intricacies of statecraft, diplomacy, and leadership. Yet, despite the grandeur that surrounded him, Akeem felt a void in his heart, an emptiness that no amount of luxury could fill. Sure, he had the palace, the servants, and a pet elephant that doubled as a vacuum cleaner. The palace was a marvel of architecture with its towering spires and intricate carvings, a testament to the rich cultural heritage of Zamunda. The servants were always at his beck and call, ready to fulfill his every whim. And then there was Babar, his pet elephant, a gentle giant who had been with him since childhood. Babar was more than just a pet. He was a friend, a confidant, and sometimes a source of amusement with his quirky antics. But something was missing. Akeem craved something more than arranged marriages and royal duties. He had grown weary of the endless parade of suitors, each more eager than the last to win his favor. The royal duties, while important, felt like chains that bound him to a life he had not chosen for himself. He longed for freedom, for the chance to carve out his own destiny, to find a purpose that resonated with his soul. He wanted love, the kind that made your toes tingle and your heart sing. Akeem had read about such love in books and seen it in movies, but it always seemed just out of reach. He dreamed of a love that was pure and true, a love that transcended the trappings of royalty and saw him for who he truly was. He wanted a partner who would stand by his side not because of his title, but because of the man he was inside. Growing up in the lap of luxury in the fictional African nation of Zamunda had its perks. The palace was a wonderland of opulence with its grand halls, lush gardens, and sparkling fountains. Akeem had never wanted for anything. His every need was anticipated and met with the utmost care. Yet, despite the abundance that surrounded him, he felt a sense of isolation, a disconnect from the world beyond the palace walls. But Akeem yearned for a woman who saw him, not his crown. He wanted someone who would look past the royal facade and see the man beneath. He longed for a connection that was genuine and unpretentious, a love that was built on mutual respect and understanding. He often found himself gazing out over the balcony, lost in thought, wondering if such a love was even possible for someone like him. A woman who loved him for Akeem, the goofy guy who tripped over his own feet and told terrible jokes. Despite his royal upbringing, Akeem had a playful side, a sense of humor that often caught people off guard. He loved to laugh and make others laugh, even if it meant making a fool of himself. He wanted someone who would appreciate his quirks and imperfections, someone who would love him for who he was, not what he represented. He confided in his trusted friend and servant Semmi. Semmi had been by his side for as long as he could remember, a loyal companion who had shared in his joys and sorrows. They had grown up together, navigating the complexities of palace life, and their bond was unbreakable. Akeem knew he could trust Semmi with his deepest fears and desires, and so he poured out his heart to him, hoping for some guidance. Semmi, ever loyal but always a bit more practical, scratched his head. He understood Akeem's longing for love, but he also knew the challenges that lay ahead. Finding true love was never easy, and for a prince it was even more complicated. Semmi pondered the situation, trying to come up with a solution that would satisfy Akeem's heart without jeopardizing his royal duties. America, he declared, that's where they find love, like in the movies. Semmi had always been fascinated by the stories of love and adventure that came out of America. He had seen the movies, read the books, and heard the tales of people finding their soulmates in the most unexpected places. To him, America represented a land of endless possibilities, a place where dreams could come true. He believed that if Akeem wanted to find true love, there was no better place to start than the land of opportunity. And so, a plan was hatched. Akeem would travel to the land of opportunity, ditch the royal baggage, and find his queen. The idea was both thrilling and terrifying. Akeem had never been outside of Zamunda, and the thought of venturing into the unknown was daunting. But the prospect of finding true love gave him the courage he needed. He packed his bags, said his goodbyes, and set off on a journey that would change his life forever. With Semmi by his side, Akeem was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, determined to find the love he had always dreamed of. The journey to America was a whirlwind. Akeem and Semmi had never experienced anything like it before. The bustling airports, the endless lines, and the sheer number of people were overwhelming. They had left the serene and orderly environment of Zamunda, where everything was meticulously planned and executed, for the chaotic and unpredictable world of New York City. The contrast was stark and immediate. Akeem, disguised in regular clothes, which, to Semmi's horror, were far from fashionable, felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. He had always dreamed of experiencing life outside the palace walls, but now that he was here, the reality was sinking in. The clothes they wore were a far cry from the luxurious garments they were accustomed to. Semmi, in particular, was having a hard time adjusting. He couldn't understand why they had to dress so poorly when they had access to the finest clothes money could buy. They landed in the concrete jungle of Queens, New York. The neighborhood was a melting pot of cultures, with people from all walks of life going about their daily routines. The streets were crowded, the buildings were tall and imposing, and the noise was constant. It was a sensory overload for Akeem and Semmi, who were used to the quiet and peaceful surroundings of their homeland. Gone were the silk robes and diamond-encrusted shoes. In Zamunda, their attire was a symbol of their status and wealth. The intricate designs and fine materials were a testament to their royal heritage. But here in Queens, such opulence would only draw unwanted attention. They needed to blend in, to become just another face in the crowd. In their place were ill-fitting jeans and sneakers that squeaked. The clothes were uncomfortable and unfamiliar, but they were necessary for their disguise. Akeem found it amusing, while Semmi was mortified. He couldn't believe they had to wear such shabby clothes. But Akeem reminded him that this was all part of the adventure. They were here to experience life as ordinary people, and that meant dressing the part. Queens was a far cry from Zamunda. The bustling streets, the diverse population, and the constant activity were a stark contrast to the serene and orderly environment they had left behind. In Zamunda, everything was planned and controlled. Here, chaos reigned, but Akeem found it exhilarating. He was eager to explore this new world and see what it had to offer. It was loud, chaotic, and smelled faintly of hot dogs and something Akeem couldn't quite place but found strangely appealing. The street vendors, the food stalls, the hustle and bustle of the market. It was all so different from what he was used to, but he loved it. He wanted to try everything, to experience every aspect of this new life. He embraced the culture shock, eager to experience life as a regular guy. He wanted to see how ordinary people lived, what they ate, how they spent their time. He was determined to make the most of this opportunity. Semmi, on the other hand, was less enthusiastic. He missed the comforts of home and found it hard to adjust to this new way of life. But Akeem's excitement was infectious, and he couldn't help but get caught up in it. Little did he know, his regular guy act was about to get a whole lot more complicated. Navigating the complexities of life in Queens was no easy task. There were so many new things to learn, so many challenges to overcome. But Akeem was determined. He was ready to face whatever came his way, to embrace the adventure and make the most of his time in this new land. And so, with a mixture of excitement and trepidation, he stepped into the unknown, ready to begin his journey in the promised land.